A hub of art and culture.
A home to events and celebrations, to the things that we hold dear and that make us special.
To experiences that are universal. And now, we need you.
The Bridgewater Museum Commission is looking for new members.
For just a few hours of your time each month, you can help the museum grow.
Help shape programming to welcome new residents and to make them feel at home.
Help to tell stories that need to be heard.
And help Des Brisay Museum thrive as a center for heritage, art, and culture in our community.
For more info or to apply, visit bridgewater.ca/serve.
I'm Amanda Fancy. I'm the dealer-owner of Gals Home Hardware and Furniture. We've been at this location for about a year. We started in 1848, way back when. This is our 5th location, so we've never have left the town limits. So we're looking to build this location. We had lots of opportunity to potentially look at outside of the town limits, but it was really key for us to be and continue to be a growing business in Bridgewater. Bridgewater, Nova Scotia is unique. We have a beautiful countryside. Our town is 7,500 people, but then, our customer reach is about 45,000. So, we're talking about lots of small communities, hidden treasures. There's huge opportunity here, and I think that it's certainly worthwhile to make the visit, make the call, do some inquiring, because it certainly is somewhere where I think there would be some strong investment opportunities for sure.
My name is Joey Richard. I come from Quebec, Montreal. I've studied opera at the Montreal Conservatoire of Music, so this is where I've learned about Italian, the language, and the food. And my passion just became bigger and bigger for food. I've been cooking for 20 years, almost. I opened a family business, but the only thing I forgot is that my family is still in Montreal, so I'm like, I make new friends, I'm building this thing, but it is a family business here. My chef is like my brother, his wife is like my sister, so I recreated a family environment. We do the real recipes, starting from the real ingredients, and for Italian food, what the secret is, few ingredients and very fresh. So each recipe would be like 3-4 ingredients maximum. But it's just the best ingredients and makes it so delicious. If you think that it's impossible to have your own business, I'm the living proof that it is possible. People want us to thrive. We work together. So everybody helps each other. If you want to be part of a community, it is the community to be part of.
My name is Joel Holland. I'm the owner and operator of 902 Athletics. I found the opportunity, started this gym in my parents' garage, and now We are currently in an 8,600 square foot facility. A lot of people come here because of the community. The things that we offer here are different than a normal gym. It's an open atmosphere where you come in, the music's played over the loudspeakers, not in your ears. You don't put earbuds in and just walk around from one machine to the other. You focus on yourself, but at the same time you get to meet new people. We have 3 floors, which we do CrossFit, boot camps, athletic training, and personal training. We have so many other businesses that are growing our economy and feeding into it becoming more populated, a place where people actually stay as opposed to leave. We're growing, we're getting bigger, and a lot of people are on the same push to become a better Bridgewater. I love this place. It's my home, and there is no other place that I would want my business to be.
Good evening, everyone. I'll call this regularly scheduled meeting of Bridgewater Town Council to order. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the agenda as circulated? Councillor Conklin, seconded by Deputy Mayor Tanner. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. As always, Bridgewater is located in Mi'kma'ki, which is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people, and it is a privilege to be here. Are there any announcements from members of council? Councillor Caldwell.
I'd like to announce that Bridgewater Active Transportation Committee, Police Service, and schools will be participating in the annual Bike to School events this spring. We're gathering at the Des Brisets Museum and the Medical Arts Building on Glen Allen Drive around 7:45 a.m. on Wednesdays between May 25th and June 15th. Students and parents are encouraged to participate, and council members are welcome to volunteer.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, I saw Councillor when he was looking right at you. He just turned right and yep. Probably walk with Sam. Deputy Mayor Tanner.
Just a quick note that at the end of last week I attended the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities conference, and 2.5 day conference. And it was quite well attended. It was good to network with people from across Nova Scotia. Nice to see everybody again, and some very, very interesting sessions put on. So I'll update council on some things that are happening with the Federation, and all good stuff.
That's great. Thank you. Others? I'll just note that this Saturday from 4 to 8 downtown on King Street, it's Food Truck Festival. So that Sunday. So that's awesome. Nice to, we're still not all the way through COVID, but it's nice to have some activities returning. So look for that, support all the local vendors. And also there'll be a proclamation posted on the town's website that May 17th is International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia. So the town will be posting that and recognizing May 17th as that day. Any other announcements from council? Hearing none, we do have a delegation here. We have Tim O'Regan and Paul Snow here from the Health Services Foundation of the South Shore to talk about their capital campaign appeal. You can give this presentation. So welcome, gentlemen. The floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for the opportunity to talk to you today about the Brighter Days campaign and the expansion of our hospital, future expansion of our hospital here in Bridgewater.
So we'll do it anyway.
Okay, my name is Paul Snow, and I'm the chair of the pace setting committee for the campaign, which is responsible for donations to the campaign from individuals and organizations over $100,000. Joining me is Tim O'Regan. I think most of you know Tim, who's quite active in the community, and Tim is one of the co-chairs of the overall campaign. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about the campaign itself, but also give you some overview in terms of what's happening with the project, and to discuss some of the impact that the campaign and these changes in the hospital will have on the community. So just to talk a little bit about the project itself, the size of the hospital will increase by 30%, or 48,000 square feet. The overall cost is estimated to be about $116 million. There is going to be a new two-story addition, a single-story addition, and two smaller additions for mechanical and electrical systems. So some of the highlights of the expansion includes an increase in the size of the emergency department, and today the emergency department is very busy and really is limited by its footprint. And with the expansion, the department will triple in size, and the number of exam rooms will increase from 14 to 20. There's also going to be an addition of a dialysis unit with 12 treatment chairs. And today, of course, anybody that requires this treatment has to travel outside the region to get it, either to Kentville or into Halifax. So that will be, I think, a welcome addition for a lot of people in this area that need dialysis. There's also going to be a new MRI suite capable of 3,000 scans a year. And again, this is a situation today where people have to travel outside the region to get this service. There's also going to be an expanded endoscopy and day surgery. And again, these are also areas in the hospital that are overcrowded and just don't have enough space today. There's going to be a new weather-protected ambulance bay, and I think it has capability to service 3 ambulances at the same time. There's going to be a new access road to the helipad, and systems upgrades which will target silver level certification under LEED. The construction is going to be phased in over 4 years, and we're targeting right now that it's going to be completed by 2025. The project has already started. There's already some ongoing work in the area around the hospital. So just touching on the campaign itself, the community has been asked to raise 5.6 to fund the purchase of equipment. So this is not for bricks and mortar, it's for the medical equipment that's going to be used in the new addition. And I think in these types of projects with hospital expansions in the province, it is typical that the community is asked to raise a certain amount of money. And in this particular case, $6 million out of $115 million is probably a pretty fair ask in terms of what the province is asking us to do. David Himmelman and Tim are the co-chairs for the campaign committee, and both these guys have shown their commitment to the project, as it was just recently announced that they and their families have each committed $500,000 to the campaign from each family. Another sign of commitment, I think, in the community is that we anticipate having 100 volunteers from the community participate in the campaign, working in the campaign. And we've received a great response from the community in the initial phases of the work that we've done. So now I'm going to ask Tim to talk a little bit about the community impact.
Thanks, Paul. So the catchment area for the South Shore Regional Hospital spans from Chester all the way down to Shelburne County, so it's a vast area. The redevelopment project is going to be very positively impact recruitment and retention of healthcare professionals. And actually, because of the increased servicing that this development is going to bring on, we're going to expect to increase staffing by about 60 to 80 full-time positions in the area. It's going to modernize the facility a great deal and be a very positive thing in terms of potential residents, and will certainly be a foundational piece for new residents, whether people decide to retire here, move here, or start a business here. The other aspect is that construction is going to have a very positive impact on the local economy. We expect about 300 construction workers to be on site every day once the project gets ramped up, right until completion. So you can imagine them, having 300 extra people around, and the amount of money that they're going to spend when they're here. So that's going to be a very nice thing. There's different ways in which we're asking individuals, companies, councils such as yourselves to help out in the campaign. Pledges can be made over a 5-year period, which certainly lessens the annual impact. People can make one-time contributions. A lot of our large donations have come through gifts of stock, bonds, annuities. We also accept real estate or other capital property. We're here today to ask the town of Bridgewater to consider a gift of $200,000 over a period of 4 years. And I guess the foundational aspects that I think are very important from the town of Bridgewater's perspective, again, just to make sure that these are very clear, is that the South Shore Regional Hospital's regional status can never be taken for granted. And this particular project, along with the funding from the community and the funding from the province, certainly ensures that regional hospital status going well into the future. It's definitely a foundational piece when it comes to physician recruitment, which is a very, very important topic these days, as well as physician retention, which is also very important. It's certainly going to be a local employment story, and certainly a story that's going to boost the local economy. So we wanted to have the opportunity today to present this to you for your consideration. We are going to be speaking with every municipal council from Chester all the way down through Shelburne County, and but certainly the two largest municipalities being in the municipality of the District of Lunenburg and town of Bridgewater, are the most important. So we really appreciate you hearing us today, and we're certainly welcome any questions that you may have for us while we're here today.
Great, thank you. Questions from members of council on the project or any of the presentation? Councillor Thorburn.
I had one marked down here, but you already answered it. You represented the Shelburne and Lockport, municipality of Shelburne and Chester. So it is a regional facility. It's nice to hear that word being used because it affects everybody in a broad area, and thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Questions or comments? I'm trying to think of where the question. I had a question and I lost it. Maybe it wasn't a question so much as I still always find it odd that when it comes to healthcare, there has to be community donations. Do you know what I mean? Like there are so many other aspects of funding through different government organizations that require no community fundraising input. But when it comes to healthcare, arguably the most important service, because you're talking about people's lives, we require community donations. So it is what it is.
Well, to give you a little bit of context, going back about 10 years ago, the formula for these kinds of capital campaigns in the province was that the community would have to raise about 25% of the overall cost. So in this case, it's a lot more than $6 million. So the funding formula has changed, and we're thankful that we're in a position now that the funding formula is a lot more digestible for the community. And specifically the money that we've agreed to raise is sort of an added bonus to the whole project too. So it's going towards equipment and technology, which are, it's meant to make sure that, the province is going to look after making this beautiful new facility, and then we're going to fill it with the most technically advanced equipment, and, so that the people then that is being serviced there are going to get the best experience all around.
Well, there's no question that MRI and a dialysis unit are huge for this community.
Yeah.
We all talk to people all the time who have to travel, especially for dialysis, and it's just because that's a constant. And when the weather hits, it becomes quite a concern. So
yeah, that's
great.
for sure.
So generally, when council receives information like this, we take some time to digest it. If we have questions, we will reach out and ask questions, and this will turn to council for some discussion and debate. We've already passed our budget for this year, but
yes.
Obviously the ask is for over 4 years, so
Yeah.
so that'll be something that returns to council.
That's great.
All right. Thank you very much,
everybody.
Thank
Good
you.
seeing you.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
We have in our package here the minutes from March 25th, 2022 regular council meeting. Any errors or omissions with those? Hearing none, motion to approve the minutes is circulated, please. Councillor Thorburn, seconded by Councillor McDonald. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. And we're right down to planning items. 6.1, planning analysis report, amendments to municipal planning strategy. And Ms. Childs is going to come down and walk us through that one.
So this report is in response to changes to the Municipal Government Act to require policy that outlines an engagement program for engaging with abutting municipalities when a council is adopting or amending a municipal planning strategy. The province of Nova Scotia is requiring municipalities to have this program in place by December of this year, 2022. And the intent of the legislation and regulations is to reduce land use conflict and increase cooperative opportunities between municipalities. So staff from the town of Bridgewater, municipality of the District of Lunenburg, town of Lunenburg, town of Mahone Bay, and municipality of Chester held meetings to ensure there was regional agreement on how to approach the policy regulations. And the group worked together to determine what processes to include in the policy, the notification areas, and when to provide notification as well. So together the group decided that in addition to the requirements set out by the province to engage with municipalities when adopting or amending a municipal planning strategy, that staff from each municipality should also engage on the creation or review of a land use bylaw or a subdivision bylaw, the preparation of a development agreement, an amendment to the MPS, or an amendment to the land use bylaw, depending on where the property is located. So for Bridgewater, that would be when the property is located within 500 meters of the town boundary. And the preparation of MPS amendments or LUB amendments when the amendment is associated with statements of provincial interest. And staff are proposing that the town's engagement program policy exists in the municipal planning strategy because that's where the current public participation process exists. So staff are proposing an additional policy, IM8, under section 17.5 public participation processes in the MPS. So staff are recommending that council give first consideration to the municipal planning strategy amendments as contained in Appendix B and schedule a public hearing during the regularly scheduled council meeting on June 13th.
Great. Questions from council? Hearing none, is someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Frazier?
Yes, Your Worship. I'll make a motion that council for the town of Bridgewater give first consideration to the amendments to the municipal planning strategy as contained in Appendix A of document 22-044A for the engagement program content regulations and schedule a public hearing during the regularly scheduled council meeting on June 13th, 2022.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Conklin. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Our next item is regarding proposed lease agreement for 525, 527, 533 King Street.
These lots on King Street are currently vacant and are considered to be a strategic location for placemaking opportunities as an interim to any development plan for the site. The location's in the middle of King Street, and based on the downtown and waterfront master plan, as well as the town's priority to revitalize King Street and popularize the downtown as a destination, staff have engaged the property owner to use the lots for town-led initiatives related to placemaking. Staff have been working on activating the site with placemaking initiatives over the past year, leading up to the summer. And the activation of this downtown space can help create a destination on King Street. It could bring people to the area and therefore bring people to the existing businesses as well. Staff and the property owner agree that the next proper step is a formal lease agreement to continue with the placemaking efforts. The property owner shouldn't have to take on the liability associated with inviting the public to use the site, and compensation is warranted. The terms of the lease would ensure that the town could use these lots for public placemaking initiatives or other uses approved by the landlord for a 5-year period. And additionally, the town would have the right to give 30 days notice of lease termination, but the landlord would not have a notice provision, meaning that the tenant or the town can remain for the entire 5-year term. And lastly, regarding the terms, the property owner has agreed to extend a right of first refusal to the town to purchase the subject lots for continued public use or to market, with control over any intended development and use, should the town wish to do so. The proposed rent would be $800 for 2 of the PIDs combined and $800 for the third, resulting in a total of $1,600. The town would also pay the property taxes. So based on current assessments, that would be $2,840 a year. And so in total, the town would be paying $4,400 a year. Budget allocations would tentatively see the lease rate for this year captured under placemaking, and future costs associated with the lease could be included in subsequent operational budgets. So staff are recommending that council direct staff to execute there's 2 of them, 5-year lease agreements with the property owners for the lots, with the agreements to be generally in the form of those included with the agenda.
Any questions from council about those? Councillor Caldwell.
Just, excuse me, just for the sake of community members who may be watching or listening, can you just describe the location?
Yeah, there's 3 lots. It just looks like one, though. It's across from pretty much the old bridge on King Street. They're the vacant lots there right now. Across from Bridge and Skatepark.
Great. To me, this sounds like a great way to, like you said, activate this space. I know members of the public have been wondering what's happening, what can happen there. So this is a kind of a great way to trial what could happen in a low-cost, high-return way, maybe. Other questions, Deputy Mayor Tam?
Just to restate, this is $4,600 annually. So I think when we originally talked about this, some of us perceived it as a monthly lease, but it's an annual lease. So I know you stated that, but just so the public's clear.
Thanks for the clarification. Is someone prepared to make a motion?
Councillor
Thorburn, thank you.
I would move that council for the town of Bridgewater authorize the execution of the 5-year lease agreements. The first lease being the lands owned by 3285235 Nova Scotia Limited, inclusive of PID numbers 60029-857 and 60029-865. And the second lease being the lands owned by 3322462 Nova Scotia Limited, inclusive of PID number 600298873, and with the agreements to be generally in the form included in document 22-068.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilor Caldwell. I'm going to put my head on a swivel. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. 6.3, proposed vending bylaw amendments, the first reading. I see Mr. Belissa is going to come down and walk the council and the public through this.
Good evening. Staff from the Community Development Department are proposing amendments to the Town of Bridgewater's vending bylaw to allow temporary vendors to operate in more of Bridgewater's town-owned parks and recreational facilities. The current vending bylaw was approved by Council in 2015. It enables vending permits to be issued for temporary for-profit vendors to operate on certain town lands by applying for a vending permit through the development officer. Shipyards Landing has historically been the most popular site for vendors during the summer months. Food truck vendors specifically have frequently used this location. However, due to the ongoing construction of a pump station and force main at Shipyards Landing, there is expected to be construction impacting the park in some capacity until at least the end of October of this year. Due to this impact, vendors will most likely be unable to operate out of shipyards this year during the warm season. Staff feel it is important we remove barriers to vending in town to prevent losing these vendors to other areas on the South Shore during construction and to promote the use of more of the town's parks and recreational facilities by vendors in the future. Staff are proposing the following two amendments to the vending bylaw to accomplish this. The first is to allow vending permits to be issued for all town-owned properties zoned as either park or recreation in Bridgewater's land use bylaw. This amendment is intended to provide more options for vendors to choose from and to plan for any future issues similar to the construction at Shipyards Landing that may happen in the future. Currently, the following areas are permitted for vending under the current bylaw. King Street from Victoria to Maple, including along the intersecting streets in this area, Woodland Gardens, the outdoor pool, Kinsman Athletic Fields and Tennis Courts, the LaHaye Sports Fields, Shipyards Landings, Bajinawiska Park, King Street Court, and Riverside Park. The proposed amendments will add the following parks to the list of permitted locations. King Street, where it abuts Shipyards Landing, St. Philip Street Playground, Glenwood Mill Park, Tannery Park, Senior Citizens Park, Michelin Nature Discovery Park, Generations Active Park, Glen Allen Park, and Glen Allen Playground. This will also include all other existing and future town-owned lots zoned as park or recreation in the land use bylaw. The second change would be to remove restrictions on the maximum number of vendors permitted to operate in a park at any one given time. Under the current bylaw, most parks are only permitted to have a single vendor at a time, except for Shipyards and Bajinawiska, which can have 3 and 2 vendors at a time respectively. Staff want to ensure that one vendor, such as a food truck which has a standing offer to operate in a park, will not prevent the same park from being used by a yoga instructor, for example. There will be discretion in the administration of the bylaw if there is not enough space for additional vendors due to another vendor previously being issued a permit to operate at the same park. Any additional vendors would still need to meet all minimum requirements regarding waste disposal, placement of stands and vehicles, and all other requirements as prescribed in the bylaw. Staff feel that the vending bylaw has been effective in its administration of temporary for-profit vendors operating on town-owned land so far. Also, that the rules and regulations are fair for both residents and vendors. The proposed amendments would not seek to alter the way this bylaw is administered, solely to allow for more options for vendors to choose from in terms of locations. These changes are supported by the Open Space Plan, which was endorsed by Council last November. The Open Space Plan includes an action item to amend the town vending bylaw to remove barriers and encourage more use of the town's parks by vendors. It's also important to note that staff reviewed the vending bylaw fees during this process, which are currently set at $25 for a week, $75 for a month, and $200 for a year. Staff feel that the current fees are fair and sufficient and also will not be changed with these amendments. The next step, if council should be in favor of these amendments, in principle tonight, would be to publish an ad in the paper notifying the public of the town's intent to amend the vending bylaw. and then to revisit the item during the June 13th regular council session for a second and final reading. Until then, staff recommend that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater give first consideration to the amendments of the vending bylaw as found in Appendix A to permit temporary vendors on all town-owned properties zoned as either park or recreation and remove maximum vendor per park restrictions. And I'm happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
Great, thank you. Questions from members of council? Councilor Thorburn.
A couple. I know you're going to advertise in the paper, but we've got social media now that seems to be way outreaching residents than the antiquated newspaper is. So
Yeah.
it's nice to see that it gets on Twitter, Facebook, website, and it looks like we've added 9 more locations. So would it be possible, even on our webpage or Facebook, to add a map of the town, letting the residents know where those locations are? 'Cause I couldn't find them all.
Yeah.
So
That was
if
a
we're
lot.
going to use them, then we have to know where they are. So I'd like to see that added to that, your worship, so that the resident can go on there, click, well, it's going to be there this week, and they'll know where to go.
I'm seeing nodding from the person who would be responsible for, for putting that on there, so.
Okay.
That makes sense.
That's my question.
Yeah, absolutely. The promotion of the vending bylaw is something we try and do a lot. There's brochures downstairs in the community development department already, so we'll make sure to amend the brochures with the new added locations, make social media posts. We really want to promote vendors in the town of Bridgewater, so it's definitely something that we want to do.
Great.
Yeah.
Do it in there, Tanner.
So just with the opening up of more space and so on, and I was just rereading the bylaw, and there's a line about competition with the abutter. How strict are we with that, so that, let's say a vending truck rolls in with a pizza component to it, obviously we wouldn't allow it within 50 meters, I think it is, of a pizza shop, but what if they sold the occasional ice cream, and there was an ice cream, do you know what I mean? How strict are we with?
From what I understand, it has so far not been an issue where we have, largely, like I said, the Shipyard's Landing has been our most popular attraction for vendors to choose from, and we haven't had too many issues with competition of similar types of food being sold across the street, stuff like that. But we would be fairly stringent, so if someone wanted to offer tacos, for example, and there was a taco place on the same street, that is definitely something we would consider before we issue a vending permit.
So let me put you on the spot. What about like a bag of chips or a bottle of soda at Shipyard's Landing? Because there is a convenience store close by. How?
Yes. So currently, is the way that the bylaw is written is it's up to the discretion of the development officer. Okay. So it would be whatever he finds to be comfortable. Okay. Yeah. So in terms of the specifics, it doesn't actually outline it in the bylaw, but yeah, it'd be up to the discretion of the development officer. Yeah. That is something that I can bring up and make sure I have an answer for you for the second reading.
No, I mean it's. Yeah. I'm being very specific, and I was just curious how that's managed, so to speak. But okay.
Yeah.
Other questions, Councilor Caldwell?
When I think of vendors, I think of food. What types of businesses are covered by this?
So it's any vendor who is operating on a for-profit basis. So it includes recreational classes where, like such as a yoga class where the instructor charges for admission to the class. It could include something like a lemonade stand, food truck, anything where wares are being sold or services are being sold for profit. Yeah.
Councilor
So the recreational services would fall into that category as well?
Yeah, exactly. One of the amendments, I didn't talk about it during my speech, was to include recreational classes in the bylaw. It was already included. There was a line that said other uses as determined by the development officer. I can't remember the exact wording. But we always permitted those, and we just added in an extra line that included recreational classes just for clarity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councilor Conklin.
Excuse me, you had mentioned that the vending permit fees would remain the same. I'm just wondering, they seem low to me, but how do these fees stack up with, like other municipalities? Any idea?
Yeah, so they're pretty on par with other municipalities from what I've seen. We did do some comparisons with other municipalities around all over Nova Scotia. We did get some feedback from the vendors that they would like it to be cheaper, especially the recreational classes. Some of them have requested us to make it free. We don't think that that's fair, just like council had brought up in the previous cases that they would like there to be some fee structure in place. So we determined that it was a fair fee structure at the current price. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions? Someone prepared to make a motion? Deputy Mayor Tanner.
I move the town council for the town of Bridgewater endorse the intent of the amended vending bylaw to permit temporary vendors on all town-owned properties zoned as either Park, P, or Recreation, REC, and remove maximum vending per park restrictions as per document 22-072, and proceed to second reading of the bylaw at council meeting to be held on June 13th, 2022, and authorize staff to publish all public notices pursuant to Section 168 of the Municipal Government Act.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Conklin. I'll just add that I will be speaking in favor of the motion because I think the more you open this up and reduce the restrictions, the more offerings you'll have. And we know from experience, as to other municipalities, the more you have to offer, the more people come to your community. The more people come to your community, the more all the businesses will be lifted up. So it's why malls put restaurants all in a food court, because they want more people in an area. So all the traditional businesses will be lifted up by the more offerings for whether it's food or recreation.
And I would add that some of these entrepreneurs actually roll into brick and mortar eventually because they're testing a.
Yeah, for sure. And some of these food trucks have quite a following.
Yes.
If you look at some of the comments on as we talked about the food truck festival, the number of comments of people who follow some of these trucks around from community to community, that means they're spending money in our community when those trucks are here. So, excuse me. We have a mover and a seconder. Any further comments? Question being called. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Great presentation. We're down to 6.4, application for development agreement for concrete production facility, and I see Mr. Lindsay is here at the podium.
Okay, so an application was received from David Hardy on behalf of 253-2521 Nova Scotia Limited for a development agreement to construct a ready-mix concrete production facility at 25 Cook Road. This property is located in the industrial M1 zone and is presently a 7.16 acre vacant lot. In the M1 zone, industrial uses that are considered to be hazardous or those that have potential to create substantial land use conflicts in accordance with MPS policy MDA1 require a development agreement. In this case, concrete production is identified by the municipal planning strategy as a use that may be hazardous or cause land use conflict. According to the application and based on design complete to date, the development will include two buildings, one main building measuring 365 square meters or 3,928 square feet, and one secondary office building measuring 217 square meters or 2,335 square feet. The applicant has revised their site plan since their initial application. However, this has resulted in only a couple minor changes, most notably a change in building orientation and a decrease in the size of the main building from 450 square meters to that 365 square meters. When complete, the buildings will measure approximately 9.4 meters or 30 feet tall, and will be at least 35 meters or 114 feet from all property lines. There will also be 10 staff parking stalls, 10 heavy truck parking stalls, and 4 customer parking stalls for a total of 24 surface parking spots. And a settlement pond is also proposed for the northeast corner of the property. The proposal requires a thorough review by engineering and community development staff against the criteria of policy IM6, which includes a review of transportation and infrastructure compatibility, as well as other policies. A public participation meeting is scheduled to be held at 6 p.m. on May 25th in Council Chambers at Town Hall. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions on this? Deputy Mayor Tanner.
What is a settlement pond?
Settlement is for all their wastewater runoff that they're using in production.
And is it? I assume it's contained?
Yep.
Yeah. 100% contained?
I believe so. I'll have to check with engineering on that.
Yeah.
I wasn't overly keen on this development, honestly, just because of where it is. It abuts the trail, it abuts for the most part, our lifestyle center and so on. And I honestly felt it was a bit of a shame that the developer went in and literally just clear cut the entire lot. I thought we had sort of given some some indication that we'd like to see some trees maintained and so on. Have they given you any information with that regard as far as replanting the trees that were in essence mowed down and so on?
Yep, that's something we are aware of, and the developer is now aware of. We're working with them, working on them, and capturing that buffering in that area between that and the LCLC, and then between that and the Centennial Trail, and that key community asset there. Trying to reduce the noise and visual pollution. So that'll be captured in the development agreement as we move forward.
Okay. That's a good question, though. I know we both kind of left a meeting at the LCLC one day and looked to our right, and we're kind of a little bit shocked on that one. So if you're working with the developer, that's good news there. Any other questions with that? So just a reminder that there will be a public meeting on May 25th, and then we'll come back to council after that. Great. Thank you very much. We are down to 7.1, correspondence for information. So we have one of many emails and letters and phone calls regarding the application to harvest in Menamke Lake. I would say, other than purchasing an electric police car, I've never received so much correspondence as this topic. And so, in case the public didn't catch wind of that today, there was an announcement by the province that this harvesting would not be taking place. So I do want to applaud the people that wrote all the letters and made comments, because I found them direct, to the point, and respectful. And I think that is a big component. I mean, we were CC'd on those. Most of those went to the Premier and ministers. So we were kind of just seeing what they were receiving. And I think that had a huge impact. If you are, like I said, to the point, stating your facts, but at the same time respectfully kind of calling it out, I think you get more traction. And this is, I mean, the proof is in the pudding, because, like I said, today's announcement is they're not going to be doing it. So I'm all for public feedback and pushback, and this is a great way of demonstrating how it works. So thanks to them, and thanks to the province for making what is the right decision in our watershed. We are down to reports and recommendations and giving notice for a proposed land sales policy. Mr. Brown will talk about that.
Just a few quick comments. Basically, the development of a land sales and pricing policy forms part of one of your strategic priorities for the year, which is the business parks expansion and the completion of the Exit 12A project. Essentially, the purpose of the policy will be to define the land sales process and to clarify how council would set land pricing going forward. It also will allow for periodic adjustment and review of pricing based on prevailing market conditions and cost of land development. It would also provide an orderly process to facilitate new growth in industrial and commercial lands based on the business parks expansion. The scope of the policy is essentially the lands owned by the town and zoned industrial and commercial. And it certainly will permit other lands zoned in that manner that are owned by the town to be added to the policy going forward should the town acquire more lands for that purpose. And essentially all town employees and other professionals engaged in the sale of property would be governed by the scope of the policy. So in terms of a policy summary, basically it commits the town to further development in a well-mannered or well-phased and measured approach based on infrastructure and basically capacity, fiscal capacity, and so on and so forth. And also sets pricing based on market value for the lands, and with the sense of some recovery of development costs where possible. So that pricing would also be initially based on a per square meter price set by council. So I guess a final comment would be that the policy is fairly lengthy. It's about 18 pages long, but it has 3 attachments. One is a template agreement of purchase and sale, which we'll post on our website at the right time in the future, and an application to purchase land, which will be required by all buyers to complete for review, and a buyback agreement template as well. So that's that.
Okay, so this will be coming back on the May 24th meeting, so the motion is to give notice, but does anyone have any questions at this time? Councilor Colwell?
How'd you land at a 15% variance in section 5.3?
Basically, we just looked at what would we be comfortable with, what would make sense. We're trying to strike a balance between not bringing every land transaction to council by structuring things where council sets a price, delegates its authority, and that basically sets a parameter around which it wishes to look at anything that goes beyond the exception. So no real math or science behind it, just a comfort level and what seemed reasonable.
Deputy Mayor Chan?
Similar question. How did you land at a 6% commission rate?
Well, it was 10 in some of the other drafts that I read, so I took a pencil to that and reduced it a bit. So I did toy with not including it at all, but I guess the thinking was we may, certainly if we attract some franchises in the future and some of the larger restaurant chains and that sort of thing, they may well exclusively work with brokers, and we'll need to have that structure in place. So that was the rationale behind that.
So is that comparative to any other municipalities, out of curiosity? Have you taken a look at any?
I would say it's probably comparative to 1 or 2. I did do some testing of that mainly HRM enhanced, but a number of the municipalities have no policy whatsoever. So we're really just looking at those that exist,
okay,
and sort of following those examples where we can.
Personally, it seems high to me, just given that we're only selling land, and how much can you show a piece of land, so to speak? How much do you have to work to show a piece of land? But we'll talk about that later.
Understood. Don't expect that we would have to employ it very often. Hopefully not, anyway.
Other questions? Is someone prepared to make a motion? Councilor Colwell?
I move the town council for the town of Bridgewater give notice pursuant to section 48 of the Municipal Government Act that at the May 24th, 2022 council meeting, a land sales policy will be considered to guide future sales of municipally owned real estate zoned for commercial and industrial development, including all lands that constitute the intended expansion of the Bridgewater Business Park north of Highway 103.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilor Conklin. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. 9.2 designated community fund project application. So this is regarding the Friends of the Bridgewater Skatepark. And here comes our Director of Finance.
Good evening. We recently received an application from the Friends of the Bridgewater Skatepark. They are requesting to have a designated community project fund established for their organization. We've had, I think this is the 4th application in the past 2 years, where we've had community organizations that are not registered charities applying to the town so that we can take donations on their behalf. We put them in the designated community project fund, and then council they make a request to have a distribution from that, and a request comes to council, and council makes the decision on whether a grant is made to that organization, but it allows us to assist those organizations by just being their flow-through entity so that they can, lots of people want donation receipts, and when they're not a registered charity, they can't give those, so it enables us to do that for those organizations within the CRA rules and provide that assistance. And so the application was attached. They have a number of things they do, mostly small fundraisers, as well as they're hoping to get back to hosting competitions again. So those are their main things, so that they can build up funds to actually, have cover the expenditures of hosting those events.
Great. Questions from Councilor Thorburn?
Not really a question, just a comment. We seem to be getting more and more of those as the public becomes aware of how the town can assist them with giving out the tax receipts, because that's important to the people making the donations. They want something they can claim on their taxes, so it's a great way to partner with the non-for-profits.
I've got to say that skate park, our parks are well used in Bridgewater, like really well used. And that has to be probably the most used park in town. I think it would rival the duck pond. Like, it's 12 months of the year there are people at the skate park, like in the snow, the skate park. So to me, I mean, it was such a huge undertaking. It was a costly project, but it's just, especially during COVID, where there were limited options to do things, I just thought, like, every time I drive by, it's just a huge smile on my face because it's so well used of all ages. So I just wanted to give a little plug for the skate park and the committee that's worked so hard to put it in place. Any questions on this? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councilor McDonald, thank you.
Move that Town Council of the Town of Bridgewater accept the designated Community Project Fund application submitted by the Friends of the Bridgewater Skate Park as contained in document 22-073 and as per policy 97 designated Community Project Fund, and further that Council approve the establishment of a restricted operating reserve DCPF skate park under Town Policies number 21 and number 107.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilor Thorburn. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Third quarter 2021-22 financial report.
All right, so I'm just going to go through the highlights of the report. I feel like a lot of the explanations are COVID-19, or we talked about it for the second quarter report, so I'll just provide you with an update on where we're projecting to be for year end. So we've had the detransfer tax conversation a few times this year, and so we had budgeted $500,000 and we're projecting that to come in at $1 million for fiscal 21-22. So we're projecting that to be $500,000 over budget. There's a couple other areas as well where our revenue's over budget, and that's sales of service, so things like police contracts for record checks, things like that. We've really seen an increase over budget of almost $200,000 there. Other revenue from own sources, building permit applications, as well as the new betterment charge that was implemented this year and not budgeted because it was implemented at the beginning of the fiscal year. Both of those things have pushed our other revenue from own sources to expect that to be $130,000 over budget. On the unconditional transfers, the community building, the equivalent of the equalization grant was doubled this year by the province, so we received an extra $531,000, so that's over budget by that amount. So that leaves revenue $1.4 million over what was budgeted for the year from those. There's some ups and downs and some smaller things that are over and under budget, but those are the highlights as to why our revenue is $1.4 million over what we have budgeted. On the expenditure side, overall, our expenses are about $300,000 over budget, so we're projecting about $1 million surplus, depending on where things fall out with all the year end and making sure all the bills are in. A number of the expenditures, just up and down by, small amounts, position vacancies and things like that. There were a few things to highlight, and that would be snow clearing. We're expecting to be about $180,000 over budget in snow clearing due to the excessive amount of storms, ice, and overtime for the snow clearing. So that one is significantly higher than expected.
Can I just ask a question about that? So our snow budget is on a rolling, it's like 10 years or something rolling, right? So we just dropped the last year off of what we spent and we budget that way? That's how we used to do it?
Surplus, you mean you?
No, the average, what it cost each year, I think they take a rolling 10-year average. And I know that we said for many, many years that one anomaly that we had in 2015, 2014, 2013, which Snowmageddon, that one. that we don't, to me at least, I don't want to drop that. Do you know what I mean? I want that kind of locked in that average, because it was so bad and then it dropped. Our winters were really good for like 3 or 4 years after, and I feel like it will skew our average so much that this, like I look at the 180 that we're over this year and I go, yeah, it was a pretty bad year, but if you took out that bad year, we wouldn't have been half prepared for the amount, just because with climate change there's so much and then there's so little, right? So I think of last year, the year before, and the year before, I hardly shoveled my driveway. I definitely didn't use my snow blower. But this year, the opposite. So I worried that if we're using an average and it's not enough anymore. It's a
Right.
long-winded way of saying I don't think that's enough anymore.
And part of the offset that was created was the snow clearing reserve. So we have $100,000 sitting in a snow clearing reserve for events like this that happen. We're fortunate this year to be in a situation where we have a projected operating surplus. So we won't pull that money into this operating year and then need to build it back up. There's not really a big need to use it. That'll kind of get wound up, use some of our surplus for this year. So in a year where we're coming in really close to budget, we might have had to pull that reserve in as well. So we'll be, keeping that in mind. And certainly we've had a couple of lighter winters that might have brought that average down for sure.
Councilor Thurman, did you have a
That
question?
was my main question
Okay.
with the reserve, same as your question.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
So the one other, or a couple other areas, and if you look under, on the second page of the revenue and expense statement, under environmental health, the sewage collection and disposal, that's projected to be, the expenses over budget by $140,000. They had quite a number of repairs as well as treatment costs, specifically chemicals that are expected to be over budget. So that one's over budget by $140,000, which is fairly significant. If you go to Recreation, under Lunenburg County Multipurpose Center Corporation, that one is projected to be about $150,000 over budget as a result of additional operating grants they are going to require due to the impacts of COVID on their most recent fiscal year as well. We don't have the final total. That was what they were projecting when this report was prepared. So as I said, overall, that leaves us, I'll mention too, under fiscal services, the transfer to other funds shows $462,000 over budget. However, that's just reflecting the equalization payment also being transferred out to reserve. So that's projected in that number. So overall, we are projecting a surplus of just over $1 million for 21-22. Also, we've enclosed the report on the capital projects. I think we've talked about this in regards to the capital projects being carried forward already. So everything that was completed, such as paving, sidewalks, and those projects are identified on this report as complete. We've also identified any of the larger Exit 12A and other projects that are carrying forward.
Are there any questions on that? Great. You're just going to stay up here for a while, aren't you? List,
All in a row.
9.4, list of reserves.
Okay. Just get to my right report. So a couple of months ago now, we came and brought forward some new policies with respect to reserves. And part of that policy was to actually establish, having to establish a business case when a reserve was set up. Part of the reason for that is the information exists in council minutes and in various places, so tracking down why we set money aside 15 years ago becomes cumbersome. So having an established business case and keeping all that documentation in one spot, just we were following what some other units did, and it allowed us to kind of keep track. Part of that policy also requires us to review our list of reserves annually, so we don't get $300 left over in a reserve and it gets carried forward for 10 years. So you'll see the list of reserves we have quite a long list of operating reserves, and there were a few that made sense to combine, so I've got some notes regarding that. There were some small amounts for the cemetery reserve that were left over from a project in 2014-2015. there's a community the next one is, as part of our budget process for 21-22, I believe it was Community Development had requested $15,000 put aside in a reserve to support community organizations, and they had an application process. They actually had $2,970 left over that they didn't give out to organizations. So that's still sitting in that reserve, and so part of this process is annually check those, clean it up. So that one we're recommending just gets transferred back to the undesignated operating reserve, just so that we don't have that lingering around. There's two small LCLC reserves, and so we're suggesting the one that has $390 in it, putting it in the other LCLC reserve. The other one's not large, but it's in the thousands of dollars, and so going forward, as we're looking at LCLC's budget and funding capital and operating, we could use some of that reserve money in the future. Back a number of years ago, there was $20,000 put aside for remediation at Shipyards Landing. In speaking with engineering, they don't feel that that specific project funding is required anymore, so we're making a recommendation about that project and that reserve monies, so that it can still be held in a parks reserve, but the actual motion related to Shipyards remediation, so we're just suggesting it be in a parks reserve in general, and then we could use that for funding future parks projects. Again, small amount of money set aside for signage in Brookside Cemetery. That needs to be just combined with some other cemetery funds that are sitting there, so we don't have a number of small cemetery reserves. Back in, I don't have a note here, the tennis club had asked for $2,000 to fund renovations to their clubhouse several years ago. And so the tennis club had made application to council. I think they were here at the last meeting and had asked for council to consider reallocating that $2,000 to them for future capital projects at Generations Active Park. So we would like councils to consider that this evening, what they would like to do with that, because it is, council motion sets that aside for their current clubhouse. And we were waiting for them to get other funding for that clubhouse so that we could actually give them the $2,000. So it's set aside, but they haven't met the requirements that council had set for them to use that. The transit reserve, again, there was an amount set aside for rural transit reserve for rural incentive from 2009 that we'd like to just transfer to the transit reserve that can be used for future projects such as shelters or bus replacements, things like that. And the last one on there would be capital reserves. And so there were just really a few small capital reserves. They were set aside, left over from some small projects. We're just recommending that everything in the capital reserve just be designated or put in the undesignated capital reserve. There's just one balance in that capital reserve for the most part. At some point in the future, we'll likely have one for green space fees and things like that. But right now, there really should just be one capital reserve with nothing designated. So that's the suggestions regarding the current list. There were two other things that I wanted to mention. They're not things that require council to consider this evening, but I just wanted to point it out. And one is that back in 2001, Policy 63 for the museum endowment was set up so that once the museum had fundraised $100,000, they could spend the income from the museum endowment. The most they have is $16,000 in that endowment. And it's unfortunate because the Museum Commission can't use the funds for projects at the museum until they got to $100,000. So we have spoken to the Museum Commission and they are in favor of us looking at that and seeing what we could do with that, because we understand the reason why it was set up, but after 20 years and we haven't met the target, it perhaps just needs to be revisited, whether the threshold amount is revisited or what have you. So I just wanted to mention to council that will be coming forward in in the future, but you will see that on the list of reserves, and it will be addressed going forward, but not in this report. And the other one is just regarding, we do have already a skate park donation reserve that was related to recovering the construction costs of the skate park itself. So those two will be addressed at a later date, but they are, you'll notice they are on the list of reserves. So I guess, does council have any questions about the specific reserves or why we have some of them? Or questions about the changes I'm requesting?
Councillor Colwell.
The money in the Parks Reserve, so going forward, must that be used at Shipyards Landing, or could we use it for another park?
I think what we'd like is to have the ability, the flexibility to have it be a Parks Reserve, so
Right.
it could be used for the purpose of parks, not necessarily for shipyards or remediation at shipyards, though it could be used at shipyards. I believe staff had indicated, the walkways and some things like that at shipyards could be repaired once the construction is done there too. So there are projects at shipyards that it could be used for, but there would be, if it wasn't all used, we wouldn't want to designate it to shipyards in particular, because then we end up not being able to use them elsewhere.
Deputy Mayor Tanner.
The tennis club, forgive me, but I can't remember. What is the timeline on them moving to Generations Active Park? Does anyone recall? Roughly? I asked because, they wanted $2,000 for clubhouse repairs. They're obviously not needing that now for whatever reason. Fine. But to me, it doesn't make sense to tie up that $2,000 if we don't know the length of time it's going to take them to move to Generations Active Park, when we could use that $2,000 to enhance another park we might have, or another recreation area we might have, or pickleball.
They,
It's 10 years, isn't it?
I thought they said a 10-year
Yeah, 10 year.
horizon is what they said.
Yeah, like to me, tying up $2,000 for 10 years is, when we know they're going to come back most likely and ask for a significant amount of money to relocate up there, I would expect. But do we have a purpose for $2,000 in a park somewhere that we can make use of now, I guess is I don't know.
It kind of goes back to Councillor Colwell's question about the Parks Reserve. Like, could we use it for something else, park-related?
I believe they indicated that they come to council on the 25th of April.
Yep.
And so this recommendation on reallocating that 2,000 came out of that. And I believe at that time they had indicated that they have a 10-year horizon, and that they would continue to be looking to fundraise for relocation in a 10-year time frame.
Right.
So that's why they wanted the 2,000 to go in there. Now, how aggressive their fundraising is going to be in the immediate future versus as you get closer to the 10-year time frame, I'm not too sure.
I think that report that they brought indicated they would be setting aside a portion of all their membership fees for that for the relocation and capital projects, I think. So I think they just wanted this to be kind of a contribution to that.
Councillor Thorburn.
Yeah, well, when they presented to us the other week, their membership increased dramatically, as did their structure fees, and they felt that they didn't need that $2,000, so they didn't want to take it and not have to use it, so they thought it would be feasible, put that in that grant and hold it there, and let it go towards a fundraising project within the next 10 years. That's what I took away from it.
I guess just to play devil's advocate too, if we kind of took that away, there's no assurance for them that a future council will give them $2,000 back. So really, we could in essence be taking $2,000 away from them that they're counting on, that they never see again. I mean, I'd be hard pressed if they're moving it over to Generations Active Park, fast forward 10 years, that a council wouldn't support that. But I guess for them, it's probably, right now they're guaranteed $2,000.
Well, not really, because it was designated for their current clubhouse pending them receiving funding from other organizations to get the total they needed. So that's the problem with the council motion, is very specific in that they have to do something in order to get the 2,000, but we put the 2,000 aside for when they did that. So they're not guaranteed the 2,000 right now because they're not fundraising for their clubhouse, and they probably won't be. because they're going to fundraise for their move. So I think that's why they were requesting that the funds be set aside and, for them for future capital projects at Generations Active Park, as opposed to they're never going to qualify to receive it, but we have it set aside.
And I'm fine with this honestly overall, but like part of me is like, okay, if we're looking at a 10-year horizon, are we going to invest this $2,000 at all into the new investment plan, and will it grow, or are we in essence going backwards, probably losing it all in inflation by the time we get to a multi-million-dollar tennis facility in Generations Active Park?
That's a good question. It goes back to what we've said a number of times to organizations, which is come to us last, don't come to us first, because then they would have made the decision, like any organization, we're not going to do this project, we're going to save it for another project, and then it would have addressed that. Right? We've had that conversation a number of times with organizations. We should be last, not first. Other questions on this? Is someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Thorburn?
I will, Your Worship. I would move that council for the town of Bridgewater approve repurposing the operating reserve funds and capital reserve funds and the list of operating reserves and capital reserve, all as presented and contained in document 22-079 and in accordance with town policies 21, 106, and 107.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Frazier. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. And we're going to skip down to 9.7 so that the Director of Finance doesn't have to sit back down. We need an additional signing officer because there are occasions where the Deputy Mayor and myself, or the current signing officers, are away at the same time. And so we need someone else. So I probably just said everything you were going to say, but I'll let you elaborate because you're probably more
Sure.
eloquent at saying that than I am.
Sure. So we did have a third signing officer, but as a result of the election, that individual is not here anymore. And really during COVID, it hadn't reared its head because no one was traveling. So as that's happening more often, we just felt like it was time to establish that third individual. We have 3 staff who can sign on the, because we require 2 signatures. One has to be one of 3 staff, and the second signature should be one of 3 councillors. So currently it's only 2.
So I'm looking for someone to nominate Deputy Mayor Tanner.
I would nominate Councillor Thorburn for that. Do you want me to put that in a motion, or?
Is Councillor Thorburn okay with being the signing?
Yes, I'm around, I'm available.
Yeah,
So-
it should say that. It should be someone who's around and available.
Yeah, in the report we said.
Hence the current situation we're in.
Yeah.
Okay. If you want to make the motion, and
Well, I don't
someone
know if
else
I
has
can, actually.
anyone else?
Can I if I'm on it? Does it matter? Yeah.
Yeah,
fine.
you're not
Oh,
nominating
okay.
yourself again.
I move that council for the town of Bridgewater approve the following as bank signing officers on all town bank accounts: David Mitchell, Andrew Tanner, Wayne Thorburn, Kimberly Hopkins, Kevin Keddy, and Tammy Crowder.
I have a seconder, please. Councillor Conklin. It is weird that you just read
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Let's do it now. Any discussion? Any issues with Councillor Thorburn being a signing authority? No? Not near you?
Pickleball court in the future.
And that's why there's 2 signatures. Yeah. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, down to RFP 2022-02 consulting services for the development of a municipal privacy policy and a privacy impact assessment.
Yes. So in September of 2020, Council adopted an open smart community pilot policy. And this was part of our Energize Bridgewater Smart Cities program. And that policy requires that the town develop a organization-wide privacy policy and privacy management framework, as well as conduct a privacy impact assessment on any town programs that may collect private or personal information or data. To implement that policy, we went out for a proposal call and specifically asked consultants to develop a organization-wide privacy management program for the town, and then complete a privacy impact assessment for the Energized Bridgewater program, which would be the first kind of pilot for that. And that, through that program, we will be collecting private or personal information about residents within the town. The RFP was issued and only one response was received, and that was from Valencia IIP Advisors Limited. We did consult with the Office of the Information and Privacy Commissioner as well in the drafting of the RFP to ensure that we were asking for the right things, because it's somewhat stepping outside of our normal areas. We did review the RFP that was provided, and through that the consultants indicated that they will, in fact, they followed the scope of work very well, that they will develop that privacy management program document which provides a framework, policies. There will be protocols on breach and incident management, privacy protection schedules, personal information inventory, communication protocols, and recommendation on staff privacy training and education. And then they'll do the privacy impact assessment on the Energized Bridgewater, and that's going to occur over multiple years. So as we create the program and start, and then it'll continue with that assessment as the program matures and continues. So the contract itself would see the final privacy impact assessment being completed March 31st, 2025, which is towards the end of the program itself. We also have some provisional or optional items that we asked them to bid on as well, and that includes looking at staff training materials for education and awareness, and looking at integrating privacy recommendations into other town policies and agreements as well. The pricing was provided, so there's a lump sum price for 2022, and then it goes on a more standing offer type fee, and then the provisional items were priced as well. We've compared this to the budget that was set aside through our Smart Cities program, of which this is totally funded through that grant program, and it is within budget. So the recommendation is that council award RFP 2022-02, consulting services for the development of a municipal privacy policy and privacy impact assessment to Valencia IIP Advisors Limited for a lump sum fee of $60,950, including HST, plus standing services to be charged on an hourly rate basis to complete the required deliverables until March 31st, 2025, as described in the RFP, and provisional services as needed, not to exceed the total value of $145,000, including net HST.
Are there questions from council on that item? No? All right, someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Conklin.
I move that council for the town of Bridgewater endorse the recommendation of staff and award RFP 2022-02, consulting services for the development of a municipal privacy policy and a privacy impact assessment to Valencia IIP Advisors Limited for a lump sum fee of $60,950, including HST, $55,271.58 net HST, plus standing services to be charged on an hourly rate basis to complete the required deliverables until March 31st, 2025, as described in the RFP, plus provisional services as needed, up to a total value not to exceed $145,000 net HST.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Caldwell. Discussion?
Question.
Question being called. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. 9.6 is the appointment of a new traffic authority.
So under the Municipal Government Act, council is required to appoint a traffic authority. And the traffic authority has the authorities that are vested in the traffic authority under the Motor Vehicles Act. So it could be anything from street closures to signage to lane markings, those types of things. Presently, our traffic authority is Mr. Feener, and as council is aware, he will be leaving his employment with the town at the end of this week, and therefore a replacement traffic authority is required. And the recommendation is that council appoint Matthew Davison as the traffic authority for the town of Bridgewater.
Someone prepared to make that motion? Councillor McDonald.
Move that Town Council for the Town of Bridgewater pursuant to Section 86, Section 6 of the Motor Vehicle Act and Section 311-2 of the Municipal Government Act, appoint Matthew Davidson as Traffic Authority for the Town of Bridgewater, effective immediately and with no defined term, and that Larry Feener's appointment as Traffic Authority be revoked effective May 13th, 2022.
Thank you. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Tanner. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Down to 9.8, Department of Municipal Affairs and Housing funding streams.
These are recommendations for council to pass motions of support for the submission of applications under the PCAP fund as well as the Flood Risk Infrastructure Investment Program. So under the PCAP funding, we'd be looking at the High Street sewer work from High Street from Victoria to Empire, and that has an estimated project value of $829,000, and the request is for $100,000 in funding under that program. And the Flood Risk Infrastructure Investment Program, council had identified looking at a flood risk mitigation plan for the town in this year's capital budget, and we are proposing a project of $100,000 with a planned request of $50,000.
I noticed you said PCAP, but you didn't want to.
Provincial capital.
You didn't want to go FRIP for
well,
the other one?
I went FRIP and TRIP. I get them mixed up.
The flood risk infrastructure investment. I thought for sure that was the one you were going to.
FRIP. Yeah, no.
Any questions on these? Is someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Frugier.
Yes. That Council for the Town of Bridgewater approved the submission of the following grant applications. Flood Risk Infrastructure Investment Program for the Flood Risk Mitigation Study with a project value of $100,000. And second part, Provincial Capital Assistance Program for the Wastewater Infrastructure Plan for High Street with an estimated project value of $829,364 plus HST.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Caldwell. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Down to business arising, unfinished business. 10.1, second and final reading of Chapter 13, the Remo Bylaw Amendment.
So this is just to amend the town's emergency management bylaw to reflect that the town of Lunenburg is a partner in the Regional Emergency Management Organization and part of the intermunicipal agreement. So really housekeeping. So the second reading would be your final reading, and upon that and notice it would be approved.
Perfect. Is someone prepared to make that motion? Councillor Thorburn.
I would move that Council for the Town of Bridgewater approve the second reading of the revised Remo bylaw as presented in document 22-055. Adopt this bylaw 13 and authorize staff to publish all public notices pursuant to section 168 of the Municipal Government Act.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor McDonald. Any discussion? Question being called. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Down to new business, application for flying flag for Pride, June 2022. I know we amended some policies and gave the CAO authorization, but this is a little different because they are requesting this for a month. So normally the policy is for a week. So that's why. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that.
Nope, that's pretty much it. It just kind of, I felt it kind of went beyond the intention of council's delegation of authority.
So is someone prepared to make that motion, Councillor Thorburn?
No.
Oh, you have a question? Yep, sure.
If we make this motion and approve it, does that mean next year they want to fly it for a month, they have to come back, or
No. This would set that. Once you approve the request once, it'd be good.
Automatically.
Yeah.
Even for the month? Because the policy right now is, does it say?
It doesn't have a term.
Doesn't limit the time?
It doesn't have any limits.
Okay.
It's just, previously it has been 10 days that the request has been for, and this is a little longer than that. So.
Okay. Nope. Any other questions? Councillor McDonald?
There aren't any other requests that typically come in June, are there? The month of June? I don't recall.
Don't think we had any.
I don't think in June.
Haven't had any in the past that I could recall.
Right, yeah, I went back and checked and I didn't see any that had previously come, but.
That would be my caveat would be, traditionally we do this on a week-by-week basis. I certainly have no objections to flying it for a month, but when we get to where there are normally other organizations, it is recognized that this is a community flagpole, so there has to be some sharing, but like I said, I don't think there is anyone else in the month of June that has requested it, so I don't see any issues.
So what if there were? What happens?
In this case, they have rights to, unless council wants to include in their authorization that we'd have to accommodate, if we had another request, we'd have to accommodate it for a short period within that month to basically allow room for another organization during that month, or give them the exclusive right to it for the full month.
Yeah, so in this case, I would imagine if this motion is passed, then June, the pride flag goes up for June and it stays up. The example I would use is if they said, if any organization said, can you keep the flag up there for 6 months? And then we had Autism Awareness Week or some other groups, we'd probably have to say the flag can go up under the acceptance that it will come down when there are other organizations, but.
That have been previously approved by council.
That's fair.
Just because I do believe there is an expectation in the community that there are organizations that year after year ask for their flag to be raised, whether it's African Nova Scotian. In February, we raised that. It's Autism Awareness Week. DHS Week. DHS. So there's a number of organizations that, I think it's very important to them, and I think we have to find that balance. But we may need to look at the policy and how we look ahead to make sure that we're not going to exclude somebody, right?
The policy states that it is on a first served basis.
I think it's just the term is longer than normal.
Yep.
So as I say, you can give me direction that if another organization that you've previously approved wishes to fly that, there would be some accommodation for that during that period. Or you can just approve it for the month of June, and based on history, there have been no other organizations in the month of June, so you probably feel fairly confident. If it were July, you have Canada Day and those types of things that might cause you to say not the entire month.
Any further questions? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Thorburn?
I would move that Town Council of the Town of Bridgewater approve the application for flying the pride flag as per Policy 81, flag flying on the designated special purpose flagpole located at Shipyard Landing for the month of June 2022, Pride Month.
Thank you. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Tanner. Had some discussion. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. We have an in-camera meeting following this under Section 22(2)E and 22(2)C of the Municipal Government Act. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Councilor Thorburn, seconded by Councilor Vergier. We are adjourned. Thank you, folks.